Hello, so this week I did a deep dive into CSS Grid. Um, I really liked Grid actually. I thought it was quite, I don't know, pleasing in the way that it worked out in such a logical way, I guess is the only way of putting it. Sadly, this week I did not manage to commit, same as last week, I just didn't manage to commit as many hours as I would have liked into this coding project. I've got my wife and I are trying to buy a house at the minute and got a couple other things on that is just taking up my limited free time after work. So again, excuses out, but I managed to get a good, so actually I didn't start this until Friday night. I ambitiously poured myself a glass of wine and tried to attempt to do the CSS Grid Scrimba. That lasted all but 10 minutes until I just realized I was looking at the screen and nothing was going in, so gave up, but then attacked it again on Saturday and Sunday. Probably got about 4 or 5 hours in total, whilst having some TV on in the background, watching NFL, all that kind of stuff. I made my way through the grid modules on Scrimba. They were good, but these ones, unlike the Flex box module that they weren't very interactive. You had to kind of go in and mess around with it yourself, whereas the Flexbox one, they very much told you, okay, now you go and do this. Understood the concept relatively well, played around with the designs that they had on the interface. Then at the very end of the module, they have this challenge, which is a BBC News web app, and they show you the picture and you've got to change the design of it based on that spec. I did try that for an hour and I was getting super frustrated. Because I've done this stuff like this before with Front End Mentor, the functionality of it wasn't great in the sense that you didn't have like a live server, so you had to keep making changes and then loading up a separate little window and pressing refresh to see if it worked or not, but it was all done within the same web page, so it was quite slow. And after an hour of going back and forth and not making much progress, I was like, do you know what, I'm going to sack this off. I'm clearly getting nowhere here. Went back to Front End Mentor, did one really basic challenge where it was kind of just like a 2x2 grid. So you had a long horizontal bit that covered the width of the page and then 2 squares underneath it. So that was pretty easy. I started styling it, but for me, I kind of thought, like, as I'm applying the styles and font colors and font weights, font families, font colors, got in the end, I just thought I've kind of done all this stuff before. I know this from my old challenge. I didn't feel like I was, obviously still good, useful to have, but I wanted to focus on more the layout side of how to apply those techniques in Grid. I created the layout on that challenge, then sacked it off, then went to another challenge, which was they have different levels of difficulty. So they have newbies, all the ones I've been doing, but then there was a junior one for a CSS bento grid challenge. So I started doing that yesterday, so Sunday evening around 5-6 o'clock. I was watching the Detroit Lions versus Green Bay Packers, and I've gotten really into NFL since September this year. It's not something I've been into, but the constant ad breaks for someone who's only watched European-based sports in the past are infuriating. However, I decided to use that to my advantage. So every time there was a 2-minute warning or at the end of a quarter or penalty or whatever, I would just kind of go back to the challenge. Managed to get the basic layout for it. There was a few sloppy mistakes in there, such as literally forgetting to write display grid on the container. But it was really, I liked applying the grid style because I get the sense from what I've learned between using Flexbox and Grid is great for like the overall big picture layout. So almost like a wireframe. Like how do I want my whole web page to look? Like where do I like the sidebar for a menu and navigation bar at the top? Almost good for that. Whereas then you can apply flex blocks to the bits within those elements that require more flexibility. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of the gist that I got from it. I haven't finished the challenge yet. I managed to get to the layout. Then it was about 10 o'clock at night and I was quite tired and I was quite happy to leave it there. I'm not sure, similar to the previous challenge, like I've done the layout, I'm not sure I can really be bothered to go through the whole process of applying all the colors and the fonts and everything like that, because again, I feel like I've kind of ticked that box for now in this learning process, and I'm really keen to move on to JavaScript as quickly as I can. So I'm hoping that by the next video I'll have some JavaScript updates, because that's the big one that I've been really wanting to move into, and I guess I've been putting off for quite some time because I feel like I haven't learned enough CSS yet. The good thing is as well, I've mentioned a few times about a friend of mine, really good friend of mine called Lee, who did a boot camp 3 during the pandemic, changed from like a sales job into software engineering, is now doing really well for himself. So he's actually coming to visit this weekend. And every time we see each other, he's always asking about how I'm doing on the coding front, like if there's anything he can help with. So previously, when I spoke to him last, I'd only just finished the HTML section, and he was like, right, let me know when you get to JavaScript and we can really get stuck into it. So hoping to show him some of the stuff that I've been working on, the methods that I've been approaching, and get more feedback, and then I can, in next week's video, provide some of that, some of his wisdom and some of that feedback to integrate into my learning journey. As always, any feedback is more than welcome. If you are someone who is further down this journey than I am in terms of either learning or you're working professionally, it'd be great to, if you see some obvious mistakes that I'm making with regards to what I'm doing or how I'm doing it, please feel free to comment or message me, as all constructive criticism like that is welcome.